No other island in the Isles of Scilly seems to divide opinion quite like Tresco. To some people, Tresco is their own little Cornish Caribbean, while to others it feels too polished, too managed, and too expensive. So, has Tresco sold its soul, or is it simply misunderstood? I'd always found Tresco harder to love than the other Isles of Scilly, but looking back, I'm not sure I'd ever really given it a fair chance. It'd been about a decade since my last visit, so this time I wanted to slow things down and give Tresco a full day and see it properly. So, was there more to Tresco than I'd given it credit for? The day begins, as most good days on Scilly do, on the water, and we arrived at Carn near Quay, one of the main landing points on Tresco. From there we walked on towards New Grimsby. It's a gentle start to the island. The sea's beside you, the boats sit in the channel, and Tresco slowly opens up. Tresco looks beautiful even before you've stepped ashore. It's low, green and sheltered with pale sands, clear water and that particular Scilly light that makes everything feel slightly unreal. When you get to New Grimsby, it's worth taking a quick detour inland to Tresco Stores. I think it may just be the best general store on the islands. There is plenty of mouth-watering food along with a few eye-watering prices. We found a packet of truffle-flavoured crisps for $6.49, which felt very Tresco. But amongst that, there was also lots of very good picnic food at perfectly reasonable prices. Back at New Grimsby Quay, and there is a waiting room where you can shelter from the wind, from the rain or even the sun, wait for your boat or leave your luggage while you go for a walk. It's a small detail, but it's genuinely a useful thing if you are just visiting for the day. One thing you do need to keep an eye on is your return boat. Tresco has several quays, and which one you use depends on the tide, so you might arrive at 1 in the morning and leave from somewhere else later in the day. The boat crew will tell you exactly where you need to be and at what time, just make sure you're listening. One of the first things that challenged my old view was how open Tresco felt. Despite its private island reputation, it doesn't shut itself away. There's no private beaches you have to avoid. There are no signs making you feel that you've wandered somewhere you shouldn't be. Anyone can come here to walk, explore, to swim, to sit, eat, drink. The paths, the beaches, the ruins, the cafe, the pub, the shop, they're all there for you to use, whether you're staying for a week or if you've just come over for the day. Onwards from New Grimsby, and the landscape becomes quieter and more exposed. Slowly, you make your way to Cromwell's castle. It sits low beside the water, guarding the approach to New Grimsby in the channel between Tresco and Briar. It was built in 1651 after Parliament retook the Royalist Isles of Scilly during the Civil War. and now the path climbs steeply to King Charles's castle. Despite the name, it wasn't actually built for King Charles. It dates from the reign of Edward VI in the mid-16th century, and it was built to defend the islands against French attack. The problem with King Charles's castle is where they built it. It stood too high above the channel, and the story goes that if the guns were pointed downwards towards ships below, the cannonballs would simply roll out the front. That sounds like island folklore, but the height really did make it difficult for the guns of the time to fire effectively. And so Cromwell's castle was later built much lower down, right beside the water. Today, both the castles are looked after by English Heritage, they're free to enter, and they're definitely worth a look around. But the real surprise comes after the castles. This is not the manicured Tresco of smart cottages and perfect paths. It's open, wind-blown land with rough grass, rocky outcrops, and a real feeling of isolation. In places it feels more like the wild parts of St Agnes. That was not what I expected. I had thought of Tresco as controlled and carefully arranged, but this part of the island feels raw, empty, and completely exposed to the Atlantic. As the path carries you towards Old Grimsby, don't drop down too quickly. Before you do, step out onto the headland and take in the view. On a warm summer's day, you can sit there and hear the gorse seeds popping as the pods open in the sun. Eventually, the path brings you down into Old Grimsby, where you'll probably be ready for a drink. The Ruin Beach Cafe is here, right by the beach. We were able to refill our water bottles, use the loo and sit down with a couple of soft drinks. One thing that first-time visitors to the Isles of Scilly sometimes ask about is the seaweed on the beaches. When a beach looks this beautiful, you might wonder why nobody has raked it away to make the sand look more pristine. But that line of seaweed, shells and other stuff, that's not mess. It's called the strand line and it's a really important part of the beach. It gives food and shelter to lots of little creatures, and those creatures then feed the birds that search along the shore. It's a reminder that Scilly's beaches aren't stage sets, they're living places. Once you understand that, the seaweed stops looking like something that needs clearing up, and it becomes part of what makes these islands work. Further around the coast you come to the Old Blockhouse. It was built in the mid-16th century to defend Old Grimsby Harbour. Its harbours, channels and position in the Atlantic once made Tresco strategically important, along with all of the Isles of Scilly. And the Old Blockhouse is also looked after by English Heritage and again is free to enter. Past the old blockhouse, the path opens onto sandy tracks through dunes, bracken and low coastal plants. The sea changes from clear green to deep blue and then to an almost impossible turquoise. And there is white sand, of course. Tresco has plenty of that. By the time I reached the huge beach on the southern side of the island, the day visitors had gone. The whole mood had changed. Only a few people were left. Some lived there, others were staying on the island or had come ashore from yachts. It was about this point where the meaning of private had begun to change. Earlier in the day, private had meant expensive, polished, aloof. Here it meant something else. Quiet, spacious, remote, not shut away, just still. Once the day visitors have gone, it becomes much easier to understand why people love this place. I had the beach entirely to myself, apart from the pheasants, which felt somehow like peak Tresco. I'd never seen pheasants on a beach before, but there they were, wandering around as if it were completely normal. If you want to walk around the whole coast of Tresco, as I did, in a day, then that will be your day. That means there won't be time to do the Abbey Gardens justice as well, but they are well worth a separate visit, so plan to come back on another day. From overlooking the Abbey, I carried on back towards Carn, where I'd started that morning, and then looped around the heliport and returned into New Grimsby. I then crossed inland through the island's high-sided fields so typical of Scilly. They hold the warmth and give shelter from the wind. Eventually I came down to the cricket ground and Tresco were playing against St Mary's. People gathered around the boundary in the evening sun. It was a reminder that Tresco isn't just an estate or a holiday destination. People live here, people work here, people play here. There is a community here. After the match, both teams headed off to the new inn. And our day came to an end, and we followed one last quiet lane back between high walls and back past the church, and then it was onto the water, where the sky was fading into soft sunset colours, and Tresco slipped away behind us. I'd expected to find a beautiful island, but an island that kept ordinary visitors at a distance. Instead I found open paths, free historic sites, wild headlands, empty beaches, and a community playing cricket in the evening sun. I've been too quick to file Tresco away as the aloof one, the island with its collar turned up. Yes, it's polished, carefully managed, and hellishly expensive in places, but it's also open, wild, and full of things that cost nothing. Beaches, paths, views, silence, light.